Columbus died, we should die defending our rights. A quote by Sitting Bull. A common holiday in America is the holiday known as Columbus Day, which is often regarded for Christopher Columbus's finding of America. But in recent years, many people, mainly Native American people, have spoken on their dislike for the federal holiday and want it replaced with Indigenous Peoples Day. Today, I will provide you with information regarding Indigenous Peoples Day, the way Americans are starting to lean towards the idea of Indigenous Peoples Day, the history supporting why Columbus Day should not be celebrated, and how the American ideology of Columbus has led to mistreatment of Native Americans. So it's first important to understand, what is Indigenous Peoples Day? There's a growing movement by Native American activists and allies to aim to eliminate Columbus Day and in its place adopt Indigenous Peoples Day as acknowledgement of the legacy of colonialism and to honor the experience of the past and contemporary Indigenous people. So this was through sanitizing history, national identification, negative stereotypes, and support of eliminating Columbus Day and adopting Indigenous Peoples Day. It is mainly for the Native community to have a voice. And according to Perry Darren, in efforts to change the culture of Columbus Day, summer 2021, for the Native community here, Indigenous Peoples Day means a lot. We actually have something. And according to Monette Mariah, a Native American activist pushed for Indigenous Peoples Day, it says, the support of Indigenous Peoples Day, say parades and other forms of commemoration for Columbus Day disregard the bloody history of colonialism, enslavement, land takeovers, and discrimination that ensued following Columbus's arrival to America. Indigenous Peoples Day allows for the celebration and stories of Native Americans to be recognized and respected. This has led to many states to decide to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day and disregard the federal holiday of Columbus Day. But despite that, not all states are in agreement with ridding of Columbus Day. For example, in 10 U.S. cities asked Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, according to the Molly Jackson staff, 10 more cities have joined the list from Albuquerque to Seattle to St. Paul. And in efforts to change the culture of Columbus Day by Perry Darren, summer 2021, in October of 2017, the Salt Lake City Council passed a resolution to declare the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day. And from what we know now, over 14 states have declared Indigenous Peoples Day, but still others do not. For example, New York partakes in the Columbus Day Parade, and people are still against changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And I think in order to understand the reasoning for the change, we need to look at the history of Columbus that can offer insight into why Native Americans feel that Americans should no longer celebrate him. So according to expert Ariana Ason, Columbus did not discover the Americas. He landed here, in the island of Hispaniola, which was inhabited by indigenous people of these islands. And contrary to his brave and adventurous representation in American media, Columbus's historical accounts reveal him to be arguably one of the most brutal colonizers in recorded history. And again, in her book, Sanitizing History, Support for Eliminating Columbus Day and Adopting Indigenous Peoples Day, she says she had done a public poll to see how people would react to the idea of Columbus Day being rid of and replaced with Indigenous Peoples Day. And it says that the public opinion poll found that 70% of adults believe Columbus deserves credit for discovering America, 56% have a positive impression on Columbus, and 76% believe that he should be judged by the standards during his lifetime and not to the standards of today. And although this may remain true, mentioned in Robertson Duana's Invisibility in the Colorblind Era, published in spring of 2015, he had also stated how the images of the natives contend with today. Columbus's inference of native peoples to be uncivilized because of their display of nakedness and easygoing natures contended them with their friendly, gentle, and naive natures that they could be enslaved. And through this history of Columbus, we learned that it is not only prominent that his accomplishments are flawed, but his acts of harm have led to consistent mistreatment in the Native community. So let's look into this mistreatment of the Native Americans that is constant through history and continues to be a reoccurring issue in today. So again, according to Robert Dwan in his Invisibility to the Colorblind Era, published in spring of 2015, it says, reveals that negative stereotyping Native Americans as uncivilized is related to a greater contempt for Native Americans and greater perception that others will actively harm the group given negative stereotypes. So, Native people are often harmed to the extent because of these negative stereotypes, and in addition to celebrations like Columbus Day or Thanksgiving, it leads to resistance of the adoption of Indigenous Peoples Day at all. And according to the expert Ariana Ason again. The national narrative surrounding Columbus Day, when it does acknowledge Indigenous Peoples Day, builds on negative stereotypes of Native people and attempts to justify colonization. The idea that Columbus is responsible for discovering America and bringing civilization to the New World upholds the idea that people who inhabit the Americas were uncivilized, culturally deficient, or even compared to the colonizers that were inhabiting them. And Columbus Day is often celebrated with other stereotypes of Indigenous people, including Halloween costumes and Thanksgiving as well, which assert racial power over Indigenous people, according to expert Robert Dwana in his article, Invisibility in the Colorblind Era, accessed April 2022. He had also mentioned how the monolithic culture is often asserted to racist archetypes and cultural caricatures. So, Indigenous Peoples Day should be celebrated in support of Native Americans, but also to show how we support their survival from oppression and their survival from genocide. First, understand the reasoning for why people want Indigenous Peoples Day. Second, know why people bring issue to Columbus Day. Third, you can see how the celebration of this can lead to stereotypical ideologies. And finally, learn the importance of Indigenous culture and identity to the American society today. Another quote from Sitting Red Bull is, "Where are the warriors today? Who slew them? Where are our lands? Who owns them?"